inherit. I never wanted the house. When the lawyer called to tell me about Uncle Gerald's passing, I felt nothing. We hadn't spoken in 15 years. Not since that Christmas when he showed up drunk and raving about something watching him from the woods behind his property. My mother had him escorted out, and we never heard from him again. Until now. The inheritance was unexpected. Gerald had no children, no close friends, and apparently, I was the only family member he hadn't completely alienated. The house was mine, along with everything in it. The lawyer strongly suggested I come see the property before making any decisions about selling it. That should have been my first warning. The drive to Millbrook took 4 hours through increasingly dense forest. The GPS lost signal twice, and I had to rely on handwritten directions the lawyer had provided. The house sat at the end of a gravel road that seemed to go on forever, branches scraping against my car like skeletal fingers. When I finally saw it, my stomach dropped. The house was massive, a 3-story Victorian nightmare of peeling paint and sagging porches. Every window was dark, and the few that weren't boarded up seemed to stare at me with an empty, hungry gaze. The surrounding woods pressed in close, too close, as if the trees had been slowly advancing on the structure for years. I sat in my car for 10 minutes before I could force myself to get out. The air smelled wrong. Thick and sweet, like overripe fruit mixed with something metallic. I approached the front door, key in hand, and noticed the scratches. Deep gouges in the wood, running vertically down the door in sets of 4. Like something had been trying to get in, or out. The key turned smoothly, which somehow made it worse. The door swung open on silent hinges, revealing a hallway that stretched back into darkness. I fumbled for a light switch and nearly cried with relief when the lights flickered on. The interior was frozen in time. Furniture from the 70s, wallpaper yellowed with age, and everywhere, absolutely everywhere, there were paintings. Landscapes mostly, all depicting the same scene. The house, surrounded by woods, but in each painting, the trees were closer. I walked along the hallway, observing the progression. In the earliest dated painting from 1982, the trees were distant. By the time I reached the one dated just 3 months ago, the trees were pressed against the windows. My phone buzzed. A text from the lawyer. Whatever you do not go into the basement until I can get there tomorrow. Gerald's instructions were very specific. Wait for me. I stared at the message. What kind of instructions? But there was no signal to reply. I was completely cut off. The house settled around me with a groan that sounded almost alive. I decided to do a quick walk through the main floor before it got dark. The living room was full of more paintings, along with journals stacked on every surface. I picked one up at random and opened it. Gerald's handwriting was frantic, barely legible. It knows I'm alone now. It knows. The trees are closer every morning. I measured. 6 inches closer on the north side. 4 inches on the east. It's patient, but it's hungry. I can hear it walking around the house at night, counting the windows, testing the doors. I don't know how much longer the barriers will hold. I dropped the journal, my hands shaking. This was insane. Gerald had clearly lost his mind. I should leave, come back with the lawyer, or better yet, just sign the papers and let someone else deal with this place. But it was getting dark, and the thought of driving those winding forest roads at night was somehow worse than staying. I found the kitchen and was relieved to discover the power was on and the water worked. I could survive one night. In the morning, I would leave and never come back. I made myself a sandwich from supplies I'd brought and tried to ignore the way the house seemed to breathe around me. That's when I noticed the locks. Every window had multiple locks. The doors had deadbolts, chains, and strange symbols carved into the frames. The back door had 7 locks. 7. And beneath them, someone had carved words into the wood. It cannot enter without permission. Do not invite. Do not answer. Do not look. Night fell like a curtain. The darkness outside the windows was absolute, a solid wall of black that seemed to press against the glass. I turned on every light I could find, and the house blazed like a lighthouse in an ocean of darkness. I settled into the living room with more of Gerald's journals, desperate for distraction. The entries painted a picture of slow, creeping dread. Gerald had moved here 30 years ago, looking for peace after a divorce. The first few years were normal. Then he started noticing things. Objects moved. Footprints in the morning dew that circled the house. Tapping on windows at night. And always, the trees edging closer. He had researched the property history. For families before him, all had left suddenly, abandoning their possessions. One family's departure was noted in a local paper from 1956. The Hendersons vacated their home of 3 years last night, leaving behind all their belongings. When questioned, Mr. Henderson would only say, "It wanted in," and eventually